In this video, I'm going to show you two techniques that I use to help me think more like a drummer so that I could program drums better. Let's get into it. So two things we need to do. We need to learn a bunch of grooves, and then we also need to see what a normal drummer does throughout each section of the song. The first technique is to program out the entire drum section of a song so you can see how it changes throughout each section. And the second technique is to program out drum grooves just by ear. Don't look at the waveforms. But first, we need to set up our DAW. So let's check that out. The first thing we need to do is load up our DAW and make a session where we're going to transcribe out all the drums that we're going to be making to use in our library. So just load in a drum sampler. So I'm using Contact Studio Drummer. Then load in the audio file that you want to transcribe. So the first technique is to transcribe out the whole song. And the benefit of this, like I mentioned earlier, is that you can see how the song changes throughout each section of the song. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So what I'm going to do is take a listen and kind of follow the waveform. So obviously I'm using my eyes a lot with this because it's the waveform, and it's a good way to get started if you're not very good at programming drums yet. So what I'm going to do, I know C1 right here is going to be a kick drum. And I know it's kick drum here, 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 and here. And let's take a listen. Okay, and I obviously know there's a snare here. And we can listen back together. And here I can see there's a kick here and kick here. And the velocity of this one goes way down. The velocity here is also way down. Let's bring down this a little bit. Next thing is the hi-hat. So I can obviously hear it has a t. It's on the and it's much lighter. So let me find the hi-hat here. So I'm going to copy this over and bring the velocity down. It sounded pretty much the same across this measure. And here, I can copy that and snare there. Okay. And just copy these hi-hats and here. And I can hear there's a different articulation for the snare. It sounds like a stick. So I'm going to put that there. Okay. So let's listen to what I just programmed. Okay. So we have the rest of the song to do. So I'm going to cut this out and you'll see what I've done. So I programmed out everything in this song. And it might look like a lot of work, but it's not going to take you a super long time to program out a whole song. Let's take a listen to a few spots. Let's bring this down. And solo. Okay, so honestly, this part repeats a lot, and there's a few. Yeah. Hello? Okay, let's get back into it. Then there's a big fill section here. Okay. And then here this chorus, which the cymbals change. Here it goes back to this original pattern. Now this is a little bit different. Then another fill. Then here's the original pattern. So through this process, I was able to see what happened and how the drums changed through each section of the song, which is very valuable to see with your own eyes and ears. But there is a problem with this technique, is that, for example, if I went back to this a few days later, I would not know the rhythms again because I didn't actually internalize it. I just kind of looked and copied. I didn't actually have to kind of make it on my own and learn it by my ear. So that's kind of the problem with this method. It's good for seeing the structure, but not good for getting the details of the groove. So that is why we have the second technique. So here I'm jumping into Ableton so I can make clips that are easier to organize in the arrangement view here. But you don't have to use Ableton. This is what I'm using right now. It's kind of a work in progress, actually. So we're going to see how this works out after I do this more. But basically what we need to do for technique number 2, which I call hard mode, is we're not going to load in any audio. We're just going to listen in Spotify or something, kind of repeat over a measure or two, pause it, try to hear the rhythm, internalize it, and then program it into the DAW here. So let's give this a try. I found this one and it sounded pretty cool. Let's get a tip up. Okay, so it's around 137. Okay, let's make a MIDI clip here. So now I got 4 bars, and this first measure is going to be kind of the pickup measure that you heard there. And let's listen to that again. Okay. Did it ba ba da. Did it ba ba da. That's the rhythm, right? What was the downbeat? 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay. Starts on the 2. So let's see if I can put it in the snare. Did it. Did it. Did it. So let's see. Let's see what the did it. Okay. That sounds right. Snare or tom. So that doesn't sound right. It's right, tom. Okay. Okay. Then maybe that sounds like maybe tom 3 or 4. There's too much time there. Maybe it's like this. Then the downbeat and the crash. I was able to take what I heard and put it down into the DAW piano roll. So after I do that, I would start programming out maybe 4 bars and maybe see how just the end of the drum groove kind of finishes and maybe what kind of accent they use to start the groove over again. The only downside to this method here is that it would take an extremely long time to program out entire drums. I mean, but it would be a good learning experience, but it's going to be too... it would be too difficult to do it on an everyday basis. So I think using this method, and if you do it every day, you'll start internalizing a lot of grooves. With these 2 techniques, I think you can become a much better drum programmer. But there's something else we can do to bring this to the next level even more. So you can, after you get better at programming, you can start focusing on kind of realism and production. Try to get your drums to sound as good as possible, or try to imitate the sound of the drum mix that you are imitating. Work with velocities more, work with timing fluctuations. Maybe you want drums to pull or be a little bit laid back. Find songs that kind of match that and kind of see how the time changes with the drummer. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is try to start learning to finger drum, which is one of my things I wanted to work on next. So try to kind of get these grooves down in your fingers as well, which will definitely help you internalize them and think more like a drummer. So I hope you found this video helpful. And if you're interested in learning more about getting better as a producer, I'm going to be having a video here that talks about how to start recreating songs within the next few weeks. So be sure to check that out once it's uploaded.